Be courageous. Like, just because you may not have the same level of degree or education as them doesn't mean that what you're saying isn't valuable or isn't worth it.
You know your body better than a doctor or somebody else is going to.
Well, you are the CEO of your health. And the two things that are most dangerous to you, not big pharma, is ignorance and fear.
Personally, I believe that they just want you to be sick because that's how they profit. They don't profit off of suggesting you to eat healthier.
Let's go on a rant. Let's go on a little rant here.
If we wanted to debunk all the myths, we'd be here all day.
Let's talk about healthy periods, though.
The period is another detox pathway and just one more reason to be grateful for my period.
Don't wait until you're diabetic or pre-diabetic to care about your blood sugar.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
I'm Seth, and this is The Forever Young Show. The most powerful force in this world is a woman who knows who she is, why she is here, and what she wants to accomplish.
And that's where self-care comes in. As a woman, it is my opportunity and my responsibility to take care of me.
Self-care for your mind.
Self-care for your body.
Self-care for your money.
Our mission is to serve women as they fulfill their irreplaceable roles in families, society, business, the fabric of humanity.
So let's get this show on the road. Veda Leclerc is your bestie this week, right? We work with women all over the world. This podcast, The Forever Young Show, is a nice warm breeze on a hot summer day. I've never explained it that way.
No.
I may never explain it again.
I thought it was nice.
Tell us, ladies, does that resonate with you? But it's a conversation that you want to have in your car or on your phone with your headphones, not Bluetooth, by the way. I hope you're not listening on Bluetooth. Okay.
Amen.
That is a big thing that
It's a big step.
I've made a big step. I did all the research on my own, and I just decided I didn't need anybody's help. Okay, Stephanie really encouraged me to get rid of Bluetooth. But anyway, this is a conversation for women to be with best friends, new best friends. So we want to introduce you to our new friend, Veda Leclerc. Veda, you're in the Pacific. You just moved to Florida, didn't you?
I did.
I was going to say, I thought you were in the Northeast, but did I have that wrong?
I was in Maine.
Okay, that's pretty much Northeast.
Moved to Florida. Yep.
All right.
I don't think you can get more north or more east than Maine and still be on land.
Yeah, it's at the tippy top.
Talk about a change in climate. How's that been, by the way?
Yeah, there's pros and cons to it. It's really nice it's sunny every single day. It's so warm, still wearing shorts and stuff. But I also kind of want to wear a sweatshirt and sweatpants some days, but I haven't gotten the opportunity to do that. So pros and cons of it, but I'm definitely not missing back home where they're bundled up already. And I'm no, I'm all set with that.
Yeah.
Well, you're the best friend we're going to introduce everyone to this week. And if you want to find out, or when you want to find out more information, connect with Veda. Jump into the show notes. She actually has a free hormone guide. We're going to talk about that today. We kind of, in the pre-show, talked a little about hormones, but Veda's got an amazing story. She's doing an amazing work, and we'll give her an official introduction. Veda Leclerc is a passionate healthcare practitioner committed to guiding individuals, and I'm going to say primarily women, right, Veda?
Yeah.
Right. This is a show for women. Hopefully they'll keep me on. Through guiding women through their individual health struggles to discover their inner glow.
After facing her own challenges, including Lyme disease, anxiety, depression, and cystic acne, she deeply understands how difficult it can be to navigate health issues.
She runs an incredible business, Wellness by Veda. She offers personalized coaching using a holistic, whole body approach.
Veda empowers her clients to address symptoms often dismissed as normal and is dedicated to helping them achieve true well-being.
Bam. All right.
Drop the mic.
Right?
So we were introduced to you, Veda, by a mutual friend, collaborator, Barbara Thompson, who produces the Studio Chat podcast out of Australia. And we listened to your story and said, we got to have this girl on the show.
Yes.
Because this is right. This is up your alley. Our show, and the women that we serve and that we hang with, and women who text us and say, when are you releasing another episode? Like, I'm going through withdrawals, right? Or even guys, I have to tell this story really quick. Or maybe I'll let you tell the story. Phlebotomist, Riley, by the way, this is a shout out to you.
Yes.
I saw Riley yesterday when I was having my blood drawn, by the way.
So about 6 months ago, I went to have some blood lab work done, right? Some blood work. And this gentleman, Riley, helped us. And we got into some good conversation and told him about our podcast. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to check it out. Which a lot of people say that. And, some do, some don't. So 6 months later, last week, I went in to get my blood work done again to see where the markers were. And I saw Riley while I was waiting, and I was thinking, oh man, I hope that, he does my blood draw again. Well, he didn't. And I was a little bummed. Anyways,
he was good too.
Oh, he was
was, pun intended, he was on point.
He was really good. Anyway, so this lady took me back and started prepping to do my blood work. And all of a sudden, Riley pops in and was like, do you know who you're working with?
Talking to the other phlebotomist.
Yes.
Right?
And I was like, what?
Do you know who you're working with?
And it took me back a second. And he was like, you're working with one of the greatest podcasters out there. And he was like, do you remember me? I helped you. And I'm like, yes, Riley, I remember you. He was like, I helped you last time. I'm like, yes, I remember. It was about 6 months ago. He's like, yeah, man, I love your podcast. It's so great. Anyways, it was so flattering. I'm like, all right.
That's awesome.
Even a man is, enjoying this and getting stuff from it. This is good.
Well, we need more women. We need more men who, as we say, men who know. We need more men who love to champion the femininity and the whole bodiness of women, right, in their roles in life.
Absolutely.
So, that's women need to be women, and we need men who want to support women in that role. So anyway, it was awesome. She told me that story. I'm like, do you know who you're with? You're with a big time podcaster. Like that's my wife. That's my wife. So anyway, we need you, Veda. We needed you on the show. We heard your story. And I was just running through it myself, because of the many women we work with from a health and wellness standpoint around the world, tens of thousands, really. And the prevalence of autoimmune condition, right? And many of the really deep and sometimes dark, sometimes hidden, sometimes taboo or kind of hush-hushed, or let's just medicate it type of health conditions, and experiences that we have. You've had those, you've lived those, and you have a wonderful, holistic, integrative approach to it. So not only your own personal story, but how you're guiding women. So anyway, we're excited to have you on the show today.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
All right, Veda, can you share with us your personal journey towards better health and well-being, and just any key insights or turning points along the way?
Yeah, so my journey has definitely been a long one, and it started at a young age. So I was in high school, and I started experiencing some weird skin rashes all over my face, and I went to the doctors. They suggested I go to the dermatologist. I went to the dermatologist. They suggested a better moisturizer. I did that. Nothing really helped. It didn't really do anything. The skin rashes were still there, but it wasn't causing any type of pain or really anything that made me want to dig deeper. So I kind of just ignored it. And a couple months after that, so it was now December of that year, I felt extremely, extremely ill. I remember I kind of felt like a sore throat at first, and I encouraged my mom to bring me to urgent care because I was just not feeling right. It was late at night. She brought me to urgent care, and all I remember was I was sitting in a chair and the nurse was taking my blood pressure, and I just woke up to doctors screaming in my face, my knees over my head, saying, Veda, Veda, wake up, wake up. And now ambulance bed was coming to pick me up. And I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, I just came here for a sore throat. And supposedly my blood pressure like completely dropped. I was unconscious for over 30 seconds. They didn't know what was wrong. So I went on the ambulance, got brought to the hospital, went to the ER. They did tons of lab testings on me, tested me for everything you could think of. Everything was coming back as normal, normal, normal. Everything looks good. I was extremely weak. I remember at the hospital, I'd gotten up to go to the bathroom and I passed out in the bathroom stall because I was just so weak. And eventually they just like, I'm pretty sure they gave me some meds and like told me it was a virus, it was going to pass. So I went back home. I was pretty much bedridden for almost 2 weeks. I lost like 20 pounds. I had no appetite. I was crawling to the bathroom. I just absolutely felt like I was hit by a truck, truly. And then I started to get my energy back. I returned back to school, returned back to sports, all those things. And the following year, 2 months later in February, I felt extremely ill again. All the symptoms came back, except they honestly felt worse. I literally thought I was dying. Like, I felt horrible. I got tested for influenza, for mono, for strep, all the things, got blood work done. Everything kept coming back as normal. And they kept telling me, it's a virus, it'll pass, it's going around, you know, the things that they say. And
Go get a
the
flu
thing that was
shot.
yeah, the thing that was different about this time was I started experiencing mental and emotional symptoms as well. I remember waking up in the middle of the night, like just having a panic attack. And I remember calling to my mom and she came in my room. She's like, what's going on? And I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I wasn't sad about anything. There was nothing, quote unquote, bad happening in my life that would have triggered that. And that one panic attack turned into daily panic attacks. Like, I couldn't go to school. If I did go to school, I'd end up leaving early because I would start crying in the middle of class. I couldn't go to the grocery store. I couldn't go to social events with my friends. I felt horrible. Like, I felt so depressed and I had no clue why I was depressed in the first place, which brought a lot of frustration because I was like, I don't even know how to fix this if I don't even know what's causing it. I ended up getting put on an antidepressant. I was seeking a counselor. And then I just started living like that truly for quite some time. And my symptoms, my physical symptoms started to get worse and worse. So I wasn't necessarily bedridden, but I would sleep 9, 10, 11 hours and I'd wake up feeling like I didn't even sleep at all. I was super bloated. My skin was breaking out. My hair was falling out in clumps. I just had so many different symptoms on top of the mental ones. And I kind of just sucked it up, honestly. Like, it kind of became like my reality and I just got used to it. And eventually my hair was falling out so bad that my mom was like worried. She was like, could this be cancer? Like, there's something seriously wrong. It was falling out in clumps. And she was seeing a naturopath at the time, thankfully. And she's like, hey, we should probably get you an appointment with her. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. My naturopath ran some blood work on me and there's a lot of imbalances on it. My white blood cell count was super duper tanked. And she's like, there's something wrong. And she did some like diet, lifestyle supplement suggestions. I started to work on that. I wasn't perfect, but I started to integrate it. Things didn't overly improve as much as she had hoped. So a couple months later, I went back in, redid my blood work. Nothing overly shifted. So she's like, we're going to test you for Lyme disease. So it is now like August, I believe, of that year. And it was the year of 2020 and I was now going into college. So it was the year of COVID. Like, I was going to a completely different state, living on my own for the first time. And it was just like, honestly, I think 2 weeks into my freshman year at college and I get a call saying you tested positive for Lyme disease. And I had this like, my mom was freaking out, but I had this huge sense of relief because I was like, oh my God, someone told me what was wrong. I have answers. There was a reason why I felt the way I felt and everything started to make sense. So I met with my doctor again. And because I'd been undiagnosed for so long that I couldn't just do a quick round of antibiotics to kill it off, I had to completely change my lifestyle. She's like, if you want to get better, I did some herbs, but I also had to completely change my diet and lifestyle habits. And this was so hard for me because I was very unhealthy. Like the gym, I didn't know her eating healthy, didn't know what that was, like skipping breakfast, eating Dunkin' Donuts every day. Like I did not care about my health at all. So it took me some time. Like it took me a lot of trial and error, slowly swapping things out. But eventually, the more and more I did it, the better I started to feel. And that kind of motivated me to keep on going. So through that process, like now today, I've completely healed myself from Lyme disease. And even though Lyme is something that's always going to be in your system, it's no longer active for me. And I've also overcome so many of my mental and physical battles. I'm no longer on an antidepressant. I was on a thyroid med. I was on birth control. I'm no longer on any of those things. And I just created, I now have such a huge passion and love for holistic healing because I saw what it did for me. And now I do what I do because I want to help other women who may be in the same situation of literally feeling like there's no hope, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and to show them that there is light that will come out of that darkness. And I want to be that person for them that kind of gives them that hope.
When I have a kind of a similar story. When I was in 8th grade, I was diagnosed with Epstein-Barr virus. And so that's been something that, I've had to learn more about and heal. And it's pretty incredible because back then, I'm 41. So back then, Epstein-Barr wasn't really talked about a whole lot. So the fact that they actually could pinpoint it and know what was happening when I went to get blood work is miraculous. It's from God. But at the same time, they just said, well, this is just something you're going to have to live with. So in 8th grade, it's like, oh, this is what life is going to be for the rest of my life. Like, there's nothing I can do. I can feel that devastation, in your story because I lived that too. And I love that you're able to bring so much hope to so many women and honestly, girls. Because I feel like it's such a huge thing right now, autoimmune disease and Lyme's disease and all kinds of things. So I just love your message. And I love that you're vulnerable and willing to share with others to help others heal. Cause you know what it's like to be in that darkness.
Right. Yeah.
So so people hear about Lyme disease and don't know fully what it is. Like if you have Lyme disease, you know what it is, right? And, and I don't want to say it's uncommon, but because there are a lot of people who suffer from Lyme disease, right? And I feel like it's one of those conditions, or it's one of those health situations where it often kind of flies under the radar, right? I mean, just like your story, right? I mean, how many months was it, or years?
Yeah, it was 2.5 years before I got officially diagnosed.
Wow.
Similar to, people with fibromyalgia, other autoimmune conditions, sometimes because the symptomology can be expressed in different ways for different people, right? A lot of misdiagnosis or non-diagnosis.
Well, yeah, it's nicknamed, a lot of the autoimmune and stuff is nicknamed silent diseases because you can have symptoms, but they don't necessarily know what it is. It takes a lot to figure it out sometimes.
So for those who don't know what Lyme disease is, but now that we are talking about it on the show, right, they're gonna meet 10 people who have been struggling with Lyme disease in the next 3 months, right? That's how it works. Can you just give us the real high level definition or causation of Lyme disease?
Yeah. So Lyme disease is when you get bit by a tick. There has been some recent research, though, that's showing that potentially mosquitoes can carry it as well, which is a little bit scary because I feel like mosquitoes are a lot more prevalent. But essentially it's carried by a tick. There's many different types of ticks out there. They're super duper small and they like stick to you. So like even if you did find one on your body and you try to get it off, like you have to like literally pull it off with like these plier things, and you often have to put it in a baggie and bring it to the hospital just to double check that it didn't infect you, because Lyme is just like, as you heard from my story, it takes your body down. Like it will literally destroy all your organs. It just attacks you basically. And like you said, it's so misdiagnosed, and there's so many people that do have it, but there's also so many people that have it that they don't even know they have it, because one, they're doctors like me, they're never going to run that test. And they often only run that test when someone has a bullseye rash, which is just like a big circle rash on a part of their body. But if you don't have that, they're not going to suspect Lyme. And then also the Lyme testing that they do is very different than the functional world of their Lyme testing. So you literally might have Lyme. Like my doctor told me that if I went to a Western medicine doctor, got tested for Lyme, they would have told me that my results were all negative. Even though they were positive, they just didn't fall in their range to be considered as Lyme disease. So there's so many people out there suffering from all of these symptoms and just all these things are attacking their body that they think, oh, I'm just gonna have to live like this forever. Like doctors can't figure it out. They start to identify themselves with it. But in reality, it's something like Lyme disease.
Interesting. Have any of you ladies, this may be TMI, but have you ever found a tick on your body?
No.
Okay, so I grew up doing a lot of camping growing up, and I've got tick stories.
I'm like, ugh.
So Veda talks about these, right? These little black, tiny little ticks, right? These bugs with his little tiny head, this kind of pointy head. And literally, I remember, this happened to me several times actually. You'd find a tick on your body, right? Because we're out in the sagebrush, right? I mean, out camping here in Utah. And listen, like they're everywhere, right? Go to the Midwest, go to Missouri, go to Illinois. Like ticks are everywhere. Go to Maine, right? These little buggers are everywhere. But I get home and I have like this. I just have something on my neck and it's like this pimple, and I'm like, hey, Mom, can you look at that? And she's like, you have a tick,
How have I never heard this story? I didn't even know you had tick stories.
Full disclosure. This is something that should have probably been disclosed prior to our marriage. Have you ever had any health concerns? And this has just kind of gone under. It was totally. This I didn't do it on purpose, right? It just slipped my mind. How many times have we been talking about ticks and Lyme disease? Anyway, it is kind of funny that I've never mentioned it because I tell a lot of stories.
You do, and we have mentioned Lyme's disease and ticks. We've talked about it.
I guess we have.
I've even talked about, should we get one of those tools? Because I know it can be a little tricky to get them out sometimes if they're burrowed in you. So,
yep.
Yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, here it is. Here we go. Thank you, Veda, for being part of our couples therapy session here. So my mom and dad see that I've got a tick literally kind of buried right here in the back of my neck, kind of where the hair comes down, right? So you can't see it. They're black, right? I've got dark hair. And it was alive. And what you don't want to do with a tick is just pull it out. Because if you pull it out, then you're just going to leave the head in there, and that's where the problems typically originate, right?
Yeah.
So there are a number of ways you can get them out. You can go Google it, right, and you can try to suffocate them, right, or you can burn them out. So my dad literally went to the stove.
Of course, he did that.
Right? He went to the stove. He got a fork and got one of the tines of the fork and put it on. There was one of those old coil stoves, the old stoves where you turn it on and the coil heats up, right? The little actual coil. And so puts it on there, gets that, I don't know, red hot or whatever. And then he comes back, nearly branded me. You feel this heat here, and he just comes in and he touches it on that, on the back side of that tick. And that tick decided it is time to back out. All right, I'm out of here, and just popped right out, right? So another time,
Oh my goodness.
I was camping, got home, and I had this itch in my underarm. And I'm like, why do I have a, acting like a pimple or something, right, under my underarm? Went and looked, and guess what? It was a tick. I had another tick. This one was dead. And it was probably because I hadn't used deodorant that day. And so it literally just smoked the dude out, right? Just like put him out. And we had to go, we actually went down to the clinic, went to see our family practice doctor. He gave me a little local anesthetic and scalpeled me, had to scalpel me, open it up and take him out. So there you have it. We're discovering all kinds of things about each other, babe, here today. But yeah, that's.
Doesn't sound fun.
That wasn't. And I guess I'm just thinking, wow, I'm grateful. Like you
have really good health. So I'm shocked. Like I'm floored to hear that you've had 2 ticks in you.
Tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up with this big bullseye rash right on my forehead.
Oh my goodness.
You know how you can have underlying conditions, or you can have a virus dormant in your body, right? And you can have something that triggers it, right? Mm-hmm. And I just hope that this podcast isn't what triggers that.
So, Veda, how do you feel women can advocate for their own health and navigate the healthcare system?
I feel like number one is they have to educate themselves, because I feel like a lot of women, more women today are starting to realize a little bit of the corruption of the health system, and they have just grown up in it, and they're realizing that they're so sick and they have all these symptoms going on and their doctors just can't seem to help them. But they might not be really, like, they don't really have the courage, I guess, to do so, because they may not be fully educated on it. Like, they're a doctor, they have their doctorates, they're authority, they're specialized in a certain subject, whatever it may be. So obviously you're going to look up to them and you're going to take their word over your own or over what other people are saying. And I think that just educating themselves and really looking into, like, truly, what is Big Pharma suggesting? What are they talking about? What is the Western medicine promoting? Why is this world so sick, yet we have such good, quote unquote, healthcare? Like, they just, personally, like, I believe that they just want you to be sick because that's how they profit. They don't profit off of suggesting you to eat healthier, to take a few supplements, to whatever it may be. Like, they're not making money off of that. Mm-hmm. So I recommend to women is to truly be courageous. Like, just because you may not have the same level of degree or education as them doesn't mean that what you're saying isn't valuable or isn't worth it. Like, you need to stand up for yourself, because if you don't, you will continue to suffer. And the doctors are basically just going to continue to walk over you and tell you things that you don't want to hear. So just making sure that you do stand up, reaching out to other people who are in the functional wellness space that will kind of have your back, because it can be scary. Like, you're like, is this true? Is this not true? Like, what if it truly is me and it's all in my head? But when you start to talk to other people that are in more of the wellness space, it can really open your eyes and make you realize, like, wow, this is a really burdened healthcare system. Like, I know a lot of my clients is they come to me and they're like, I'm eating healthy, I'm doing these things, my doctor said everything's normal. And then I kind of throw all these like debunking things at them. And I'm like, well, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. That's not healthy. And their mind is blown. They're like, wait, what? But then they implement it and they start to feel better and their symptoms start to go away. So it's like further validates that this stuff works. So my main word is just to have the courage to do so and to really educate yourself.
Yeah, it can be really intimidating when you do start to wake up from big pharma and start to kind of push against the pricks, when you're at the doctor's office. And typically, those doctors don't really like that, because they're supposed to know more than you. And so when you are discovering other things that either they're not aware of or they don't like, it can be a challenge. So it definitely takes courage to fight for your own health and to get that education. Also, I found that there's a lot of social communities on Instagram, on Facebook, where they do talk more holistically, in case some people that are listening don't really have those friends or those people that they can reach out to. There are some some good friends of mine right now, I actually found through social media, who are more in alignment with more natural approaches. And it's really, really blessed me to have that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Community is everything, especially when it comes to the health journey side of things.
Yes. Well, and another thing that I think of when you were talking about that is like, look at how COVID was handled, right? Instead of telling you to go out and use nature to help with your immune system and honestly with your emotions and everything there too. They also didn't suggest, oh, you need to eat better, you need to exercise, instead it's, well, let's put a mask on. Let's stay indoors. Let's not talk to other people. And honestly, I had an experience. I did, yeah, get an injectable. I had an experience that really changed how I looked at some things during COVID. Suffering with autoimmune disease. At first, it really scared the heck out of me. All these things that there was. You remember that?
Oh my goodness!
I was like, Seth, you can't do this. No, we can't do that. No, and then
it was a phobia.
It really was. And I think sometimes when you have autoimmune disease or things, and then something this big happens, it's easy to go back to that fear, because that's what I felt like they were feeding was fear of getting sick and dying. And, people did die. I don't want to take that away because it did happen. But I felt like it was to a level that really brought my fear out. And so I was paranoid probably for a good 2 months, to be honest, until I was in one of those groups and somebody brought it up and they were saying, they had their own autoimmune disease and they were like, it would be selfish of me to tell my family that they can't do the things that they feel are best for their body because of me. She's like, I need to do what I can do to help and protect myself and come together on this and see what we can do to get together, but not go off of fear. And just the way that she had said it really punched me in the gut and was like, am I living off of fear? And am I dictating to my family, well, this is best for me, so you can't do it. And anyways, it really turned it around for me. And I started to question things and started to realize that what I was doing wasn't healthy. I did get COVID. And thankfully, I had been told by a couple of people that if you get COVID, do not lay on your back because it suppresses your lungs and it makes it harder for your lungs to operate and to heal. And so I know that really, really helped me. I didn't get that big, deep cough in my chest. I did run a fever and stuff for I don't know, what was it, 6 weeks. So my body was fighting it. Excuse me. But during that time, I quarantined away from my family because I knew that was something I could do to help keep my family healthy. And it was so hard to not have physical touch or that connection with anybody, really. My husband or our older daughter would bring in some food for me, and that was about it for probably 4 weeks straight. And then finally, my husband came in to bring me food, and then I'm getting like a little emotional thinking about this, but he came in and brought me some food and gave me a hug, and I just broke down sobbing because I didn't realize how much I needed that physical touch and that connection, and how imperative it is for somebody's physical and mental health. And it really, really made me think more about all those people who were alone. Whether the elderly in, nursing homes or people that had to go to the hospital for procedures or for anything. It really hit me hard and realized how much we need connection. We need physical touch from those that we love.
Well, you are the CEO of your health. You are the CEO of your health. And the two things that are most dangerous to you, not big pharma. Big pharma is not the thing that is most dangerous to you. What is most dangerous to you is ignorance and fear. And if you combat those with education, some confidence, and some community, then you can make those decisions that will be most in alignment with what I think we're coming to it with what you desire. We're coming to an age where there is just an awakening, I feel, in the integrative functional health, right, community. At the same time, there is a big push going the other direction that, based on symptoms, based on a pharmaceutical answer, right? And we were just in the hospital yesterday. I was doing blood draws because we do blood draws, regularly, right? We did 6 months ago, did them, yesterday, last week, do them again at the beginning, toward the beginning of the year, first quarter next year, so we can create our own baselines, so we can understand our own norms, right? Because the body is everybody's body's a little different, right? Mm-hmm. So, Veda, question: you talked about debunking myths or debunking just bad info, right? Should I call it fake info? What are the top 3 myths or just bad pieces of information that you counsel women and kind of change their perspective on that?
Yeah, I feel like there's so many out there.
Okay, let's not limit it to 3. Let's not limit it to 3. Let's just go on. Let's go on a rant. Let's go on a little rant here.
If we wanted to debunk all the myths, we'd be here all day. But I guess I would say like my top ones that I continuously see women kind of doing the opposite with and kind of following the world and what the world is saying is, 1, fats, getting healthy fats. So many women believe that fats make you fat, fats cause heart disease, fats raise cholesterol, fats do this, and they just have a very negative view on fats. And I used to be the same way. My diet was carbs. Like, that's pretty much it. And when I started to integrate more fats into my diet, I noticed that I didn't need to snack throughout the day. I noticed that I was more satiated. When I got my hormones tested, I just recently did a Dutch test, and my hormones were really good. Like, not to brag, but they were really good.
Girl, brag.
And a huge
brag.
And a huge component of that, I believe, is truly my fat intake. Like, fats, in order to make hormones, you need cholesterol. And how do you get cholesterol? You get it from fats. And making sure that you're getting adequate amounts of fats is really going to help you with healing. It's going to help you with satiation. It's going to help you lose weight. It's going to help you with your hormones, your gut health, all of the things. So I really encourage women and men and whoever out there to really stop fearing fats, because they're really your best friends, but the healthy fats. And that kind of goes into the second one that I hear a lot of people say is like, oh, like canola oil, vegetable oil, that's good for me. Like, it's good for my heart health. It's organic. Like, it's great, but no, it's not. I hate seed oils. Like, they're just my enemy, and they cause so much inflammation. They are the root of heart disease. They're the root of disease. They cause so much stress on the body, and the world just promotes that stuff. Like, you go to a restaurant, they're likely using canola, soybean, vegetable oil. You go to the grocery store, like, that's typically the oils that they have. That's the cheapest oils that they have. Like, that's what people on the news or like Big Pharma or whatever are promoting. Like, oh, this stuff is good for you, but it's not. It's really so bad. And another thing, 2 more I'm going to mention is, one more is in terms of weight loss. A lot of women tend to think that going to the gym more and eating less equals success. And that could not be farther from the truth, because especially as women, like, we have different phases of the month throughout our cycle. Our bodies can handle stressors a lot differently. And if we're going to the gym 5-6 days a week, hitting intense cardio, intense lifting, that essentially is putting a huge stress on our body. And what stress does is it literally tells our body, like, hey, we're running from a bear. We don't have time to lose weight right now. We don't have time to have a baby. We don't have time to help your digestive system. So all those systems shut down. You start gaining weight. Now this creates this process in your mind of, oh, I cannot lose weight. I'm so frustrated. Why can't I do this? I'm so bad at this. All these things, it starts creating this negative self-talk. So you go to the gym even harder. Now you cut your calories even more. And it's just this continuous cycle, when in reality, it's making you feel more miserable and taking you further away from the goal. And then my last one is, I'm a huge component on blood sugar management and blood sugar regulation. Don't wait until you're diabetic or pre-diabetic to care about your blood sugar. You should start caring about that today, making sure that your meals are balanced, that you're not eating, I like to call them naked carbs, like you're not just eating a bowl of fruit or bread or crackers by itself, pairing it with a protein and fat to slow down that glucose spike, going on, I like to call them blood sugar balancing walks. Like after you eat a meal, go walk for 10 minutes, move your body, like whatever it may be. And that's going to help reduce the blood sugar spike, because if our blood sugar is crazy, your hormones are going to be crazy. Your gut health is going to be crazy. You are basically setting yourself up for disease down the road, and making sure you're managing that from the get-go. No matter how old you are, do it before the doctor has to give you the diagnosis. And even if you are going to the doctors and you're getting your A1C check, you're getting your insulin check, and they're saying, oh, it looks great. I don't know about that, because their ranges are very different than functional ranges. So they might look at it and be like, oh, you're in the range. No, you're in the range that they can't diagnose you yet. And if they can't diagnose you, to them, you're normal. Whereas if you look at it from a functional lens, no, you may not be diagnosed yet, but you are very trending towards that way. And we need to dive deeper into that.
Such great advice. I mean,
Yeah.
we could discuss this with blood sugar. We could discuss this with cholesterol, right? What used to be a healthy cholesterol level, much higher than where doctors say today, right? And you know what's one of the most, at one time it was Lipitor was the number one selling drug, I think, in the pharmaceutical world, right? Because everything you've said, like I'm looking at some like check. Yeah, we're all on top of that. Blood sugar. Hey, we just ate. Let's go on a walk, family. That's always Stephanie, right?
I try to.
Especially when we travel, I think
Yes.
we really work on that. You know, we do a lot of travel. We just got off a 3.5 week road trip from Utah to Kansas City to Missouri to Texas to North Texas, Central Texas, you know, West Texas, Arizona. And so we're sitting a lot, and, you know, it's kind of a different environment. So yeah, blood sugar balancing walks after you eat, you know, checking out the city. But one thing I want to talk about is this difference between living within quote unquote normal ranges where we can't be diagnosed and put on a treatment versus finding your own norms, or norms that are accepted in the functional health world, in the integrative health world, right? Which may help promote longer health span, right? It's almost like there are two different goals of these groups, right? One is, well, we can't put you on this yet, right? You're not so bad enough. You're not so bad yet that we can put you on, you know, whatever script it is, as opposed to what direction are you heading in? Seth, maybe you don't need 5 pieces of pie, right?
Well, I think not just the longevity of it, but the quality of life. Like we should be doing something now so that the quality of life improves now, instead of waiting until, you know, oh, okay, now we can do something. You know, there's always something you can do to improve.
Right. Yeah. And I always like to tell people that every symptom that you have, whether how big or how small, is a sign from your body that is asking for help. So when you go to the doctors and you do blood work and you're hit with, oh, everything looks great, everything looks normal, but you don't feel that way inside, don't just accept that and move on. Because that what's going to happen is your symptoms are going to keep growing and growing and growing. And the longer you leave them unaddressed, it's literally brewing in your body. It's just brewing. And then next thing you know, you now have a disease that the doctor can go and diagnose you with. And they're going to look at it like, oh, you fell out of the range. Great. Here's a medication. You're good to go. Whereas what I'm doing is I'm looking at it of, okay, first off, our ranges are much, much shorter than Western medicine range. So if you fall out of the range, whether it's super low, super high, or you're trending high, trending low, we're looking at that. And if there's any sort of imbalance, we want to start working at it right now, because I'm not there to diagnose you. I want to prevent that diagnosis from ever having to happen.
Amen.
Love it.
I
Preach.
remember being in my early 20s and not really knowing, because I've always been a really thin girl. And I mean, even more so then. And so people always looked at me and were just like, oh, you're healthy. You don't need to do anything. I would ask, hey, I really don't know how to work out. Can you teach me? Or different things like that. Oh, you're thin. You don't need to do that. And I'm just like, no, but I do. But I didn't really know anybody else to reach out to. And so, it was frustrating because I felt like people just looked at me as healthy because I was skinny. And I'm like, there are a lot of unhealthy people walking around here that are skinny. But I think it's, something that Seth and I talked about just yesterday actually was learning to listen to your body and to know what feels right and good and healthy to you. And that's one way that you can know how to advocate for yourself also is, your body better than a doctor or somebody else is going to. So learning how to listen to your body when it's talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the best things you can do is become in tune with your body. I think going through my health journey, I've been able to have the opportunity to know my body a lot better, become more in tune with it. And like today, I'm very observant of it. If I notice that, like if there's a stressful season in my life, like I know, like intuitively, I'm like, I know that and my digestion starts to slow down, say I do start to break out, say I have a little bit more PMS next cycle. And I know because it's the stress that I'm in and the season I'm under, but I now am able to take that and rather than being frustrated and feeling like I took 10 steps backwards and feel like I'm not moving in the right direction, it's like, no, our body is great. It's able to adapt. Healing is not linear. So I just take that and I intuit with my body. I listen to it. So then I know in the next season of life, we need to focus more on deregulating our nervous system and calming it down and doing all those good things. But it's really hard to decipher that when you aren't in tune with your body.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
If you're looking for an invitation to get in tune with your body, this is it.
Okay, so I do have a question for you. There's something else Seth and I were talking about. What are your thoughts on cold plunging?
That's a great question. So there's pros and cons, I think. I think cold plunging is really good, but I don't think everyone should be doing it. And the reason I say that is because cold plunging it's one of those health tools like you have in your toolbox that does give you that like dopamine rush that's not from like scrolling on your phone. Like it's more of the natural one. And it just helps like kind of reset your body and helps with detoxification, reducing inflammation, all those things. But at the end of the day, it is a stressor. When you step into a cold plunge, it's really cold and it puts your body into this kind of fight or flight state, even though it's a healthier response. So if you're someone who is in a season of life where you are beyond stressed, you feel so tired, you can't even get out of bed, you feel so burnt out, I don't think cold plunge is right for you because, like I said, even though it's a good stressor, it's still a stressor. But that doesn't mean you're never going to be able to do it. I just think it's best for when you are in a season of life where you feel like your body can handle it, where you feel like you're not at that point of burnout, then I think it's definitely a really good tool to have.
I would say yours is the best answer I've received so far.
Good.
I really, really like it.
Well, I'm also going to say there's a difference. We can draw a line here. Cold plunging for men typically is different than cold plunging for women, or I should say women are going to process that differently. And within women, within the cycle, right, there are times, just like intermittent fasting, there are times that women should not be intermittent fasting, right, because of your hormone cycle, right? And the ebb and the flow and the rebuilding and all of that. So as I'm listening to you, Veda, I'm like, oh, wait a second. Something I never thought about because, well, I'm not a woman, is there are probably times of the month that are way less effective or should be probably avoided, right? From a cold plunging standpoint. Any thoughts on that, you ladies?
Yeah, I'm a huge stickler for cycle syncing. It's my jam. I love talking about it. It's helped me a lot. But when you're in that second phase of the cycle, so like your luteal phase, your like body's prepping to about to start your period, that's when your hormones are dropping. And at that point, like it's not the time to do intermittent fasting. It's not the time to do a cold plunge or to do a sauna or do intense exercise. If anything, we want to really work on bringing as much, like taking away as much stressors as possible and really relaxing our body. Because the main thing kind of how cycle syncing works is the first half estrogen is starting to go up, our energy hormone. The second half progesterone's going up, which is our relaxation hormone. So ideally, we really want to live with the alignment of that rise and fall of estrogen and progesterone and living our life according to that. So for women, like you were saying, it's very different than men. Men have like a 24-hour cycle. They wake up, their day starts over, and the next day is the same the next day after that. Whereas women, it's a 28 to 35-day cycle if your cycles are normal. And because your hormones are shifting, you should also be shifting with that.
Like, what percentage of women would you say are really in tune and understand their hormone cycle? I'm not talking about they understand they have a period, right? I'm saying they understand the luteal phase. They understand what's happening. They understand that there are 4 seasons. There are 4. You were just talking about this the other day, weren't you? That a woman basically goes through an entire year in a month, right? If we're going to compare it to the Earth's seasons, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many women do you think are really like understand that?
Well, based off of conversations that I've had with a lot of women, typically you say your cycle and they think just the period. They don't really understand all the intricacy of it. And I feel like once you do understand it, you understand yourself, you understand your body,
Right.
you understand your emotions. There's so much depth to it. And going a step further, how much of a gift it is, the cycle. Like I've always looked at the period cycle as something to be dreaded, because of the PMS, because of just all of it. There's just so much that can be there. And so I would dread it. And once I get to know my body and how to support it, the period cycle is actually not something to be necessarily dreaded. I really don't dread it like I used to. Sometimes there might be annoying things about it, but it's not like, oh, I'm so bloated, I'm cramping, I can't get out of bed, or, I can't do the things that I want to, or, the tools that you use to support you during that, can become annoying. But being in a healthier place now, it really is not as much of a nuisance. And I realize that it's such a gift from God. And something I learned recently was that the period is another detox pathway that we've been given. And I was mind blown, and just one more reason to be grateful for my period.
Yeah, I feel very similar because our periods are 5th vital sign, and I used to be the exact same way. I used to have horrible periods. Like I went on birth control and I just dreaded it. I was like, oh, really? It's coming again? Like it's that time of the month. Now I hear people and they tell me, they're like, oh yeah, I don't have a period. I'm like, you don't have a period? I'm like, what? Like you don't have a period? Are you serious? Like that's so important. Whereas old me would have not cared. I'm like, I wish I was you. Like I wish I didn't have a period. But it's like you said, it's a gift from God. Like there's a reason why women have different phases of the month. Like he did that on purpose, and we should honor that. We should live in cyclical nature of it and not necessarily get angry at it.
So is this going to come as a shock if I tell you ladies that I don't have a period? Let's talk about healthy periods though. Like I know that we've listened to you discuss, lecture about healthy versus unhealthy periods. I think there are a lot of women who are accepting a certain level of symptomology, right? And just like not looking forward to things. It's a negative experience, right? Well, and frankly, I mean, like growing up, there was nothing positive, right? In the culture I grew up with. I'm not saying just my home. I'm talking more about pop culture,
society
right?
as a whole. I feel like,
that, oh, it's that time of the month. Like stay away from the grizzly bear over there, right? Because it's that time of the month, and what's that time? And it was,
or even if like you were a little snappy, it's like, oh, you must be on your period.
Yeah, that was always the answer.
Like it's something so negative. So negative.
Right. And obviously that culture, I think, is shifting. I know in our home.
At least in our world it is.
It is in our world. I'll tell you. We are raising boys who know. I will tell you.
And girls who are not afraid.
Amen. You don't know this about us, Veda. We have a blended family of 10 kids. So Stephanie, I had 6 kids. Stephanie had 2 children. When we met 10 years ago this year, we actually celebrate our anniversary in December. So for everybody who's listening, you can forward your...
Oh my goodness, don't.
Okay.
He's just kidding. But anyways.
So we're celebrating 10 years. And, we've blended families. We have 6 boys. We have 4 girls. We have grandchildren now. And we're very open, right? We're very open. These boys, like, nobody needs to blush when we say the P word, right? And any of the P words that have anything to do with any bodily functions, like let's just get clinical, right?
Yeah.
And non-emotional, non-shaming, non-taboo, right? Just again, ignorance and fear, right? We are going to nip those in the bud and burn them to ashes. And, boys, we're going to talk about periods, and we're going to talk about it in a healthy way. We're going to help you understand, right? Women need to understand their bodies. Men need to understand women's bodies too. One of the most tragic things I think I've ever heard in my life when it comes to relationships is some husband basically shaming his wife because of her cycle, because of her hormones and how that changes. That changes, your pheromones. It changes your body chemistry. It changes like how, just changes a lot of things that, in the senses. Right. And I just think, what a tragedy.
It just made me think of probably one of the saddest things that I've heard of around the period and, a couple is that a husband will sleep on the couch whenever his wife is on her period because it's so gross to him. And I'm just like, oh, where is that man? Where is he? Like,
he's on the couch.
Not okay. This is beyond not okay. Show me that couch.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. It just made me think of that.
I'm happy to say that I'm not afraid of the period.
No, he's not. No. And I'm grateful. It's really done a lot of healing for me because, it was something that I've never really talked about, even in my 30s and us going on a trip and I started my period early and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't have my supplies on me. They're back at, in the hotel or whatever. And I just remember going up to this woman in the South and kind of like almost whispering, here I am, this, grown woman with a blended family of 10 kids and grandkids. And I'm whispering
to the in the hotel.
Yeah. At the service desk. Do you have any feminine supplies? And she's like, girl, why are you whispering? You shouldn't be ashamed. And I don't remember what else she said, but I was just like, you know what? Like it really had such a huge impact on me. I wish I could remember her name and, go back and tell her like, you gave me permission to not have to hide or be ashamed that I'm on my period. Like what a beautiful gift she gave me and how I'm going to help pass that on to my children and grandchildren. Like this is how God made us. It's a gift. We don't need to hide it. We can embrace it and celebrate it and help other people to do the same. Anyways, I was excited to talk about that.
I love that story. I can't wait for you to say that to other women. Girlfriend!
Girl!
So let's talk about healthy periods or unhealthy periods. You work with a lot of women who bring these, and you're looking at these symptoms and basically telling them, hey, that's actually not normal, right? So there's something we can do about that. Can you just elaborate?
Yeah. So a healthy period is typically between the days 28 and 35. And typically, like when you're about to start your period, when you enter your luteal phase, that's when that big word PMS comes in, where a lot of people do struggle with it. Like their skin starts to break out, especially around their jawline. Maybe that they feel a bit more bloated. They feel very crampy, where they feel like they need ibuprofen or heating pad. They get really irritable. sugar cravings, like tons of symptoms that like are really no one really wants kind of come about, but that's not normal. And I think when I used to have really bad PMS, like that's why I dreaded my period, because I was like, it's that time of the month. I'm going to have to take ibuprofen. I'm going to have to lay in bed. Like I kind of prepped myself of like, okay, what day is day one? I'm probably going to have to miss school or miss work because I'm going to be in so much pain. And that's where that dread came in. But that's not normal. Even though it's common, it's not normal. And when you enter that second phase of your cycle, so that's after your ovulation period. It's the longest phase, unfortunately, but it's the luteal phase right before your bleed. And during this time, you should naturally feel lower energy because, like I said earlier, that estrogen's dropping, progesterone's rising. So you likely won't have as much energy to go do a crazy workout in the gym. You might want to stay in rather than going out with friends or family. You might have a little bit more cravings because in that phase of the cycle, women should be eating about 300 to 500 calories more because your body is craving it and it needs it. And that's why women literally get that hunger cue of why do I feel like I could eat the whole pantry? Like I feel so hungry. And that's normal, but not to the point where like you feel hangry and that you're going to go crazy if you don't have it. So it's finding that balance. But more or less, a normal period should not bring tons of pain. It may bring like slight discomfort. It might bring like I said, a little bit of the cravings, a little bit of that lower energy, but it shouldn't stop you from living. You should still be able to navigate your daily living. You should be able to go to work, go to school, hang out with friends, whatever it is, but it shouldn't like hold you back from that. Now, a lot of people are on birth control where they either have no period or they have a quote unquote period. And that's not actually a bleed. That's kind of just like the die off. So people who are on birth control pill and they're like, oh yeah, I saw my period. That's not really your period because birth control is shutting down that brain to ovary connection, therefore shutting down that proper production of estrogen and progesterone. And it's essentially stopping you from ovulating because you're trying not to get pregnant. And if you don't ovulate, you can't have a period. Like that's just how the woman's body works. But a lot of people don't know that. And I think a lot of women don't have a normal period and they suffer with tons of PMS because they are educated on it. Like they don't know the right tools on how to best take care of their body. They aren't told when they are offered birth control that XYZ can also come with it. And by the way, when you come off birth control, you're likely going to have all of these XYZ symptoms. So women just think that's their only option of like, I don't know what else to do. I don't want to deal with this every month. So they get on birth control. That's literally going to just completely stop their period. And they'll be on it for years and years and years when it's really just worsening their body even more.
Amen.
I was hoping you were going to get into that. You did it. You hit it.
One thing that I think a lot of people don't understand too, and that doctors, I don't know, the women will go in and want to get on birth control for years. And then they're like, okay, I want to have a baby. And a lot of times it's really difficult to get pregnant afterwards because of what you've done with your body. And typically doctors will just say, oh, no, you're fine. You know, just when you're ready to have a baby, just get off and you should be able to get pregnant. And it's really not that simple because of what the birth control does to your body. And I feel like we're seeing an influx of infertility. And I know that's one contributing factor to that. You said,
and it's very
education.
Oh, go ahead.
Education, you know,
Yes,
really getting education.
yes, right. Yeah, it's unfortunate too because many women think now that like expensive therapy is their only option to potentially have a kid, or they just accept they're never going to be able to have a kid. But it's because, I mean, there's many factors that can cause it, but that birth control is literally depleting your estrogen and progesterone for so long that when you come off of it, you basically don't have progesterone. And when you don't have progesterone, it is nearly impossible to then try to have a baby. And it also affects your thyroid. If your thyroid's imbalanced, it's going to be very hard to have a kid. But most women, they kind of fall to the resort of spending tens and thousands of dollars that may work, that may not work, when in reality, all they need to do is to work with someone, educate themselves on gut health, liver health, mineral balancing, all of that. And you will be able to have, much more likely be able to have like a successful pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
If you're loving this conversation, if you want more incredible insight to hormone health, and I'm going to actually we're going to have Veda really talk to the woman that she serves. But please check out the show notes. You can find her on Instagram, on TikTok, on her website, and also she has a free guide to a woman's hormone reset, which I know a lot of women will be interested. So check out the show notes. Veda, who do you help? Like, who's your ideal client?
Yeah. So my ideal client is woman. That's mainly who I work with. And from a more mental emotional side, it's someone who just doesn't feel good in their body. Like they don't even know themselves. They feel like they lack a lot of confidence. They feel like when they look in the mirror, they don't know themselves. They don't have a lot of self-love. When they walk into a room, they're comparing themselves to others. They don't have a lot of like good compassion and empathy for themselves. And they just truly don't really know who they are. They feel stuck. They feel like they're just surviving, truly. They're not thriving, they're surviving. And they also often deal with the physical symptoms of dreading their period, having that PMS, feeling so bloated that every time they put on a pair of pants, they feel horrible in it. They feel insecure in it. They feel like they can't lose weight. They feel like they sleep 10 hours and they still can't get out of bed in the morning. And their doctor's likely been brushing this off as normal. And that's where I really want to step in for those clients. And rather than having them just survive, I want them to thrive. And I want them to find that inner glow. That's kind of my niche and my business statement is finding your inner glow. And I want women to be able to get in tune with that, get in tune with their bodies and glow up in all aspects of their life, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So when they do walk in a room, they know who they are. They're not comparing themselves to others. When they look in a mirror, they feel super duper confident. They can set boundaries with themselves and they're just really proud of the woman that they are and the body that God has given them.
Beautiful.
Love it. Love it. Love it. You surprised me there. Honestly, often when we talk with people in integrative medicine, functional medicine, fitness coaches, etc., we almost always unequivocally the answer starts with some symptom, some external health issue problem. I mean, we've talked about some of the health challenge you've gone through with depression and anxiety and cystic acne and Lyme disease, and you didn't start there. Like that really kind of surprised me.
Yeah. I'm a huge component of mindset, emotional, mental, spiritual work, because that was a huge part of my journey. Like when I look back at my journey, yes, I dealt with a lot of physical symptoms, but I also dealt with a lot of mental and emotional. And I've had to not only overcome my depression and my anxiety and get off of an antidepressant, but I've had to overcome a lot of mindset battles. I did deal with this stuff at a young age. I was in high school, going into college. All my peers around me were not living the life that I was living. And I had to really figure out who I was and not conform to the patterns of the world and not conform to society. And it really, through that process, I learned a lot about myself. It allowed me to become in tune with myself. I overcame a lot of mindset struggles. I grew my relationship closer with God. And I really think that that is the biggest part of anyone's healing journey. Like you can, yes, diet, yes, sleep, yes, supplements, all those things play such a huge role. And I think that you need them in order to achieve optimal healing. But if you don't believe your body can heal, if you have a lot of hate towards yourself, if you are walking into a healing journey thinking that you're not going to be able to get to the other end, you will not get to the other end. So having that good mindset about yourself is so, so imperative.
I definitely agree. Have you ever read The Body Keeps the Score?
I have not, but I've heard many people rave about it.
Yeah, it's really good. And just making that connection of the physical symptoms because of the
Mhm.
emotional elements. But anyways, it's a really, really good book.
Can we jump back to seed oils? I think we're going to wrap up here. This has been awesome, by the way. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You have brought
Yeah.
an incredible message. Let's talk about healthy fats.
Mm.
Because I know you gave an impassioned speech about that. We feel passionate about that. We're starting to preach more openly about that. So let's talk about healthy fats and seed oils just for a minute. Let's talk about healthy fats.
Yeah. So healthy fats, some examples of them would be like olive oil, avocado oil, tallow, grass-fed butter, ghee, avocado, nuts, seeds, things like that. Those contain a lot of nutrients and fats. Like I mentioned earlier, they contain cholesterol, which is helpful for hormone production. They also keep us satiated for very long periods of time because they are slower to digest. And for someone who may feel like they need to snack every 1 or 2 hours, I really suggest looking into your meals. Like, do you have enough protein, but also do you have enough fat? Because if you're not, like, carbs digest at a much quicker rate, which is going to cause you to feel hungrier sooner. Whereas fats digest much slower. So you shouldn't technically feel hungry for 3 to 4 hours after your meal if you're getting quality amounts of it. And fats are just overall, they're good for our brain health. Like they have such good sources of omega-3. And if you think of a walnut, like a walnut is a fat source and it's kind of shaped like a brain and it's a really good brain booster. It can help with like anxiety, depression, and just overall healing. Whereas the seed oils, the bad guys like canola oil, soybean oil, vegetable oil, those are what a lot of people use, or like Pam spray for their when they're cooking dinner or whatever. Those are doing the complete opposite, and I think that's where sometimes fats get the bad rep, but not all fats are bad. It's the seed oils that you really want to avoid. Like truly try to avoid at all costs when you're cooking at home. Avoid buying those. Get the healthier oil swaps. When you do go out to restaurants, try to choose foods that aren't fried and like that likely don't have seed oils. And also like what I do is when I get a salad, I ask for a side of balsamic and a side of olive oil because a lot of the time salad dressings are filled with seed oils. And it's those things that you never think of like if you're listening to this, go into your pantry, go into your fridge and look at things and you'll be shocked to see that like the first ingredient, which is the most prominent ingredient in the food, is canola oil, vegetable oil, soybean oil. And you wonder why you have such bad PMS. You wonder why you feel so inflamed all the time. And that could be the culprit of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been shocked. So my naturopathic doctor has encouraged me to do more gluten-free foods. And so it's really, at least for me, it's been kind of difficult to find products, especially carbs, breads or pastas that either don't have seed oils in it or that the texture and taste are good. Like it's really,
Mhm.
really hard to find that. And I've been really surprised, going to Costco and thinking, oh, they've got some great products and getting the bread, that was highly recommended by others that are gluten-free and then bringing it home and being like, are you kidding me? There's seed oils in this? Yeah,
Okay.
you really do have to be, I don't even know what the word is, but proactive in looking at every ingredient in the labels. And I feel like now that I'm that woman that's at the store and flipping around every single thing that I'm, looking at buying and
Yeah.
reading all the ingredients. But that's okay. I'll do it. I'll take that title.
Well, can you imagine having something that you absolutely love? I don't know, maybe it's a car or something. It's a possession that you love, and instead of taking care of it, right, you just dump whatever into it, right? In the engine, on the upholstery. I mean, think about whatever your car is, whatever it is. Maybe it's a pink Jeep with 33s, with a 3-inch lift, or maybe it's a BMW 6 Series, soft top. But can you imagine going and putting the lowest grade of fuel in it? Oh no. Well, now let's take it a step further. What if every time you filled up, you just decided that you're going to throw whatever in there? some other liquid, oh yeah, there's some dirt. Like we know that that's ludicrous. And yet the most amazing machine on the face of the planet is the human body. And actually, I'm going to say the woman's body. Just kind of sounded like something I wanted to say, but there are reasons. Men's bodies are amazing too, but there's something even more, I think, even beautiful about the woman's body.
Well, one thing about a woman's body is that you can carry a child, and that's divinely appointed. So, anyways,
yep. That's exactly where I was going. But we have become accustomed because of maybe our affluence, because of, frankly, ease, and because we've essentially farmed out, or I should say, we have released our responsibility. And I'm speaking societally in generalisms, okay? That if it's in the grocery store, then it's food, right? And that's not the case. 80% of what is in that grocery store today is processed, highly processed, or ultra processed. And I'm not saying that processing is bad. Listen, I would rather have some nice sourdough bread, there's a process there, than be chomping on turkey red winter wheat, right? All winter. So I'm not talking about all processing, but we have a fabulous little bakery here. We live about 10 miles out of town in the country, but in this small town, there's a fabulous little bakery called Abigail's Oven, and they make basically 4 ingredient sourdough bread. 4 ingredients, and there's nothing that my 9-year-old can't read, right? Mm-hmm. And we need to get back to that place where we actually realize that we're not living in an agrarian society where, hey, my dad just butchered the chicken, right? My uncle grows the wheat. We pulled some garden tomatoes out. There's no glyphosate, on those tomatoes or, on that wheat. And the meat was clean. Like, we have to put in the effort, because you will either pay for it now or you will pay for it later. Mm-hmm. But either way, you're going to have to pay. I remember, Veda, 15 years ago, it's kind of that's how I'm remembering it. Maybe that canola oil kind of came more into the forefront of the cooking world, right? And being available in grocery stores. Because prior to that, we were just using vegetable oil, right? And at some point we realized, vegetable oil isn't happy. I can see this in my mind. I don't remember the exact time, but canola oil is the healthy choice. And so canola mayonnaise, right? Canola mayonnaise. I remember the days where we were proud of ourselves because we were making the healthy choice of eating canola mayonnaise.
Or Crisco.
Right? Or
that was
Crisco.
a big one for me growing up, was Crisco. It's the healthier choice. And now I'm looking back being like, what?
Right. And I think what we also have to realize is it's going to be a little inconvenient.
Yeah.
Being healthy is, in order to change your habits, you will probably experience some inconvenience. I don't really find it super inconvenient now, but at the first, it is that way, right? It's like, now you just know that any tortilla chips, I love tortilla chips, right, are pretty much garbage. And so I'm just going to say that is an atrocity.
I do have a question. Do you know about the Siete chips or Siete brand?
About being bought out by Pepsi?
Yes. It's sad.
I know. I love Siete.
Yes. So I have heard that, we probably have like 6 to 12 months until they, switch over the ingredients. So I'm like, okay, well, no.
Stock up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But they go bad. Let me tell you, those chips go bad.
True. Yeah. They get stale real quick.
They do. You can taste it. You definitely can taste it. But at least for now, I'll still buy it, but I'll look at the ingredients before I buy it to make sure that those haven't been switched out yet.
Right.
Ugh.
Well, as we wrap up seed oils, and I do believe, like Veda, I think we're right on point with you. One of the most important and very simple decisions you can make from a dietary standpoint is cut out bad oils, right? Cut out seed oils, at least 80%. And now 100% would be great, but we live in a world that's tainted, right? It's not like, I'm going to go to a restaurant now and quiz them on every single thing. At the same time, until we do that, until we say, hey, what are you cooking my steak in? And they say, I don't know, whatever oil they're using. It's either sesame oil or canola oil or some low. Until we say, I'd actually like you to cook that in butter. Or
how about we just bring our own butter? Do you think they'll do it?
I've got a little beef tallow here. Can you take this? What I'm saying. But until we do that, until we put that pressure, restaurants won't. They're not going to change. And again, I'm not at this point even right now where when I'm out to eat, I do make different choices, but I don't go ballistic, right, on every single thing. And some people will just say, listen, I'm just not going to eat out, or I'm just not going to eat anything that gets close to that. And that's great. For me, I'm like, how can I make a choice that's going to save 80% of it, right? The easy thing. And one is don't buy those at the store. Shop,
right.
eat with, choose avocado oil. And then again, you got to be careful with avocado oil because you got to make sure it's real avocado oil, right? Because there's that whole thing with avocado oil where some makers are only labeling. In fact, so I was talking to a close relation of ours recently, have a health conversation. This person's young, in their 20s, and talking about mayonnaise. Right? Not that mayonnaise is healthy, right? But there was a time in my life where I actually handmade all of my own mayo with olive oil and fresh eggs. And we may get back to doing that. But if you just look at mayonnaise, right? Just stop buying mayonnaise that you're buying and stop buying liquid seed oils and find something else, do olive oil or coconut oil or whatever, avocado oil. But we were talking about getting healthy mayonnaise, right? I shouldn't even say healthy mayonnaise, but hey, listen, if you make mayo, Veda, on your farm, it could be healthy, right? Healthy amount of good oils. We're pulling eggs, literally. I'm not going to say we're pulling them from the chickens. That sounds a little, we're letting them
I'll
come.
let you do that.
But if you're going to the store to buy mayo, he's like, oh yeah, I get avocado mayonnaise, right? Or olive oil mayonnaise. And word to the wise, you still need to read the label. Unless you're buying Primal Kitchen, right?
Right. That's what I was thinking in my head.
Unless you're
I
buying,
was like, I use their avocado oil.
yes. Unless you're buying Primal Kitchen, go ahead and check out the affiliate link in the show notes. No, we have no affiliate link for Primal Kitchen, but that is in our fridge. Because if you look at many or maybe even most of the other brands, it will say olive oil. It will say avocado oil mayonnaise. You'll turn it over and you'll look, and what is the first oil in there? It's canola oil. So you really have to be a wise consumer. Again, how do you combat ignorance and fear? With education, right? With accountability, that will decimate the fear, and education and a little extra time so that you don't put, these literally toxins in your body. Veda, thank you so much.
We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
And cut. It's a wrap.
Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for sharing this episode with that one friend who needs this conversation. Thank you for all the ratings, the reviews, the comments, and especially the support. We so appreciate you.
Now, if you want to take a peek behind the curtain and be the first to know about special previews, backstage updates here at the show, and especially some private collection content that doesn't come out in the regular show,
be sure to join our VIP community at theforeveryoungshow.com.